you. All right, well, let's go. So welcome everyone, hope you're enjoying the day. I surely am, it's been good so far. So today I want, click like that, yeah. I want to tell you the story that I've seen play out dozens, if not hundreds of times in our agency and a digital agency CyberDuck in London. That's the story of a marketing director who was very frustrated with their content management system. They've been using it for years and they just can't manage their content anymore. They have fixed templates, they can't launch new marketing campaign or create pages, and they know that the software is outdated and they can't easily upgrade it, and they have to go back to their developers to make every little change. So yeah, they just can't deal with it anymore. And they've decided that we need a new CMS. So they've done some research online, and they found this Gartner quadrant about web experiences management system, and look at a few names there, Adobe, Sitecore. And when they started seeing, obviously, the license fees to those, they started rethinking about this project and how critical it can be for their business and the value that it needs to bring. So they started writing a brief about their needs, and sometimes without any budget expectations. And they come to us saying, okay, what can we do for the new CMS? And the marketing director then started talking to a networking event and heard this new buzzwords about DXP, Digital Experience Platform. They were all excited about it after learning about personalization and kind of aggregating data from CRM system and multi-channel campaigns. But again, they didn't really know how to implement it. And then they're speaking to their IT team in-house, and the guys suggested headless and having a microservice architecture, and they need to be secure. And then they're just even more confused about what to write in their brief for the new CMS. And that's why those briefs are usually incomplete for new CMSs. So I don't know if you've ever been in that situation. Maybe had some clients like that, and if you're not client-facing, I can tell you it's wild out there. They don't really know what they're doing. And that, in my role today, that's what I'm facing more and more, where I'm an ex-developer, so I can't write code anymore, but I understand the technicalities and the complex integrations that are needed. And today at CyberDuck, I support our sales team and in the new business when we have those inquiries or those tenders. Every time there is the word API or ERP, they come to me to try and understand what's needed and make some recommendation about a potential solution. So what can we do? How can we help our clients to select the next best CMS for them? Should I go with SilverStripe, Drupal, some of the new SaaS platform? So if you're asking me for my preference, I don't know, are you expecting me to tell you which one is better between SilverStripe and Drupal? Sorry, it's not going to happen today. Because it shouldn't be about me, it shouldn't be about my personal preferences. It shouldn't be about us in the room building those sites. I think we need to start getting into our clients' mindset and start thinking like them, try to understand what are their true challenges and why did they write this brief about the need for a new CMS, and try to think what they're expecting to see from us in terms of helping them solve their digital challenge. So what were they thinking? Like, start some empathy and put ourselves in their shoes. When they wrote the brief, obviously they're frustrated, so they want something that's better than they have now. They want to understand how much it's going to cost them. Because now they're stuck with their current system, so they want it to be easy to customize and easy to use for their editors, their non-technical editors most of the time. And they don't want to get stuck having to ask their developers for every small changes. And then you might wonder, why is it on this Gartner report? Should I trust this? And my straight answer is no, don't worry about that. There are some big names there, but it's a lot of marketing gimmicks. And one point to note, though, is that there is the Acquia platform, which is the commercial division of Drupal. There is some WordPress SaaS platform as well on some of those. So we could potentially think about saying SilverStripe Cloud in the future, but again, that's probably more marketing than technical for us. So if no one knows what they're doing, if everyone is confused in the marketing team between the requests from their users, their IT teams, and the market trends, we have to guide them. That's the first thing. But first of all, we have to vet clients, obviously. Before we can make recommendation for a new CMS, we need to make sure that they're going to be relevant for us, for our business, for our agency, and make sure that we can deliver the project profitably. Because we don't want to be bothered, probably all experience it, a small firm of accountants from around the corner and have like €1,000 budget and going to spend months doing this project, so just don't want to have to deal with that. And we really have to vet the client, make sure they have complex challenges, that they're ready to invest into a good solution, and they will take the time to go through those challenges. And obviously, we all have different thresholds, whether you're freelancing or as the agency grows, you go after bigger clients. And that's why, obviously, today we're going to try to focus more on the enterprise side of the market. And once the clients they're vetted, we kind of build a good relationship with them, and we understand that they're ready to talk about their brief and listen to our suggestions. Through all that stage, the early stages, it's really our job as not just the sales team, but also whenever we bring technical input to the brief, is to be open and transparent, ask the right questions. That's very important. A lot of the time, those briefs are missing a lot of information. And yes, obviously, we can't have all the technical specification early on, but we have to challenge their brief and ask them if they thought about some of the elements that we've seen on other projects. And that's where we can start understanding the real requirements and dig deeper. And throughout all of that, obviously, we need to have their best interest at heart. And then, obviously, we're leading with open source. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits, and that's kind of one of the pillar of our agency as well, where most of the projects we do is with open source technologies. Obviously, a lot of benefits you're all aware from the global community support. It's like having more than just your team working on it and contributing globally. The ownership is very important for clients, especially as you grow kind of larger corporate clients. They want to own the intellectual property, own their data, control their data, and not being stuck on SaaS platform that they can back up, for example. So the flexibility, big kind of keyword in the SilverStripe community and open source. You can start building your own module and extend things for custom requirements. And obviously the costs, where, yes, open source, there are no license fees, but we obviously need to think about the total cost of ownership over 3 to 5 years, where going open source, obviously you have to deal with the ongoing maintenance and refactoring and improvements and deployment. So obviously that's a cost that needs to be calculated early on. And then we need to pick a stack and a language. Hopefully, we're all here today. I don't need to convince you that PHP is better than Ruby or .NET. But yeah, there are obviously a lot of technical expertise these days that needs to be developed. So it's very hard to find a full stack developer that can do it all. And as a business, as we scale and we grow the team, we need to develop processes. We need to bring consistency into projects, so we can rinse and repeat and be more efficient and more profitable. So we do have to kind of specialize and pick one actually at least underlying technology stack, which is PHP for us in this case. And that obviously need to match with our clients' requirements. And in most of the cases, like 80–90%, actually the clients don't really care about the backend or the underlying framework. They don't care how it works or what it runs on. Just need to deliver on their business needs. So that's again one aspect that we can easily convince them, and there's very little pushback, as long as it complies with their information security policies. We might have 1 or 2 clients that has to be in .NET, but even then, there was be kind of more Microsoft houses. But we even convinced them that we can host PHP apps on Azure, so it's still within the Microsoft ecosystem, and they're happy with it. So we've selected PHP as a base, and when it comes to a content management system, obviously it's a busy market. Put some of them here, skip some of the lesser knowns, I've added some of the newest one, kind of Laravel-based, like Statamic or Twill, due to the popularity of the Laravel framework growing in the last few years. But yeah, I feel like they're not really kind of yet enterprise ready, as we're saying, trying to get to the higher end of the market. And I think we've got experience pretty much with most of those. When I say experience, not that we've enjoyed all of them. We've had some nightmare stories with kind of we took over, or we had to do a migration from Pyro. We were almost winning an expression engine project, but then when we saw the code, so now sorry, can't help you. Nightmare stories about Joomla, Pyro, so discarded most of them and had to create a shortlist for our agency to kind of narrow down the team that we have to train and keep updated on some of the framework. So it might be a bit biased, focusing on the one we use in-house, and it's a very simple view. We can add a lot of different parameters and different dimensions. Obviously, it can be much more complex than that, but at the base level, this is the gut feeling of how I and we rate some of the content management system for our clients after done it for 15 years. So when it comes to it, and why you're here today, the subject of my talk, we're going to focus on the enterprise side. And there's really only two platforms where we've seen that it works for those clients, corporate clients, government clients, and that we can deliver value and pleasurable experience both for the editors and the end users. So based on everything we said, the best CMS between SilverStripe and Drupal is... No, sorry, can't tell you yet. Can't rush to a solution. We have to go back to this RFP from this marketing director where they said, look, this is my requirement. Please give me a fixed price and give me a project plan. Like, how long is it going to take? When is it going to be ready? And show me a nice design to make it look good. And obviously, we can't do that straight away. We have to go through a discovery phase. And early on, we can remain platform agnostic. That's what we do in most cases. Unless the client has a fixed requirement for a specific stack, or they're already using either SilverStripe or Drupal and they just want an upgrade, we try to stay agnostic in the early days. And we have to take a long-term view as well. It's not just delivering on the features of their brief. Like, yes, they tell us those are the 10 things we need, and that's what they're paying us for, so we have to match that. But obviously, it's a big investment in most of the cases, and it needs to last. They need to have a long-term ROI. It needs to be flexible for them. And so they're happy, not just in day one, but also in 1, 3, and 5 years, that the system still works for them. So before we can decide on selecting a platform between Drupal or SilverStripe, we have to drill down deeper into the requirements. So look at all the functional requirements, some of the features that they need that they've listed. So we want predefined templates, we want workflows, we want the ability to schedule publishing in the future. Usually have most of the basics there that come out of the box of most CMS. So that's usually not a big problem. We also have to think about the non-functional requirements, of the features that they don't know they want, that they might not have thought about around the GDPR compliance. How are you going to handle forms and data being stored? Where is that going to go? Accessibility, a big trend now where larger clients have to comply, governments, mandatory testing and accessibility standard that they need to meet. So again, that's kind of what I was saying about challenging the brief and helping them build a better brief, and all of that kind of help build trust with them. And then some of the features that they can realistically use as well. As I said, they've heard about DXP, they want to do personalization, that's the future of marketing, and they want to integrate with their ERP system. But then when we start telling them like basic personalization, okay, can you segment your users? Can you create 4 different versions of this homepage banner with different copy for your segment? And oh no, we don't have time. It's just no, we can't do that. So we really have to match or warn them about, is that really what you need in day one, or is that something that can come later? And obviously think about the ongoing support and the budget for maintenance. And this phase is really the most important of any project. That will help us define the information architecture, the user journey, UX design. And only then, once we have that clear view of what do we need to build, and something that's user-friendly and that's gone through usability testing, then the developers and the technical team can come in and start looking at how is it going to be built and what is the best solution for that. So once we have all this information, we can, as I said, start making some technical decision. And obviously, I told you, we have to stay open-minded and do what's best for the clients, pick the best platform for their business needs. And obviously, we're all running businesses. We have employees, we have a team to maintain, and it's finding that balance really between the client's needs and our own agency needs. As we have full-time employees and salaries to pay every month, our team has grown now close to 95 employees, probably more, half of them in developers, and We have, I think, 4 or 5 SilverStripe developers and 10, 11 Drupal developers, the rest more on the Laravel stack for the custom application. But it really depends on when that client is ready to start and when the brief comes in and who is available in my team. I have to take that into consideration as well. If the SilverStripe team is busy for another 3 months and the Drupal is just launching a project, might have an inclination to say, well, if you want to start next week, we can do it in Drupal when both things are equal. So that needs to be come into consideration as well. So, what is the best CMS? Again, sorry to disappoint, but there's no right answers. Because with both platforms, as I said, we've been able to deliver amazing websites for happy clients that they keep renewing contracts with us. And we've been working for more than 5 years on some of them, even more, I think 6, 7 on some of them. And yeah, we've been able to deliver amazing results for both of them. The first one is the Financial Ombudsman website that we built on SilverStripe. So that was, again, long-term project, took more than 6 months of UX and discovery, and kind of they were going through a rebranding as well, and being part of the kind of arm's length government body in the UK. There was a lot of content, and the content had to be very accurate, obviously, because it talks about disputes between end users and their financial institutions. And there's different stakeholders, different like the pension team and the credit teams, and they all kind of have different workflows to publish those policies and the complaints. So yeah, it's quite challenging, but SilverStripe performed very well. Actually, I think I presented it in one of the previous Stripecon about how at the end of the discovery, we even gave our clients 2 instances, one SilverStripe and one Drupal, to let them test those systems. And just configuring the basic branding so they could test the workflows and some of the usability of the admin area, and managed to lead them towards a SilverStripe decision. And that the site's still live today. It's been working very well with all the different blocks, as you can see, different templates. I think they've created over 20, 25 different blocks, and they're very happy with it, and we're still working on it 5 years later. And it was quite a complex integration, as their remit within government extended to other type of financial dispute resolution in other area, one with small businesses, another one more corporate. We had to implement a multi-site plugin in SilverStripe where we could kind of have a single code base to power 4 now, I think, sites, and using the same blocks, just having some different CSS style to make it look good, and that answered all their needs. And it's been very efficient to manage with obviously lower technical debt and less system to manage. Obviously, being government body, very strong on security. We had to go through weeks of pen test and auditing and service management agreements. And obviously, SilverStripe passed with flying colors, as we heard this morning, very, very strong on the security side. And some custom integration we had to do, extend kind of a SSO plugin to work with their Azure directory, and build also an application with queues that were kind of parsing hundreds of PDF files that they have to publish overnight, and build a search engine on top of that. So yeah, it was a very successful project at the end. And the second case study is the College of Policing that we did with Drupal. So here they had come with kind of having Drupal in mind, kind of predefined early on in the brief. So because that's kind of the platform that's being pushed by some government entities in the UK that works well with their custom gov.uk pass hosting, where they have pre-built Webpack and all of that. So that was, again, an easier sell for them. And a website as well that's defining basically all the policing guidance in the UK. So it sets around the different constabularies and define how they should react to the different knife crime issues and stop and search, and obviously going through a lot of controversies at the moment, where they have to be, the content that they publish has to be very sensitive, go to strict kind of workflows of approval before the police forces start using it as the gospel in their day-to-day. So a lot of discovery, a content-heavy website, complex information architecture and taxonomy systems, which works well with the Drupal stack, leading security as well, and complex integration, where here we have an advanced search engine, not just searching everything on the website itself, but also a crawler that aggregates data from other police forces to build the kind of one search engine that is everything policing in the UK pretty much. So that integrated quite well with Drupal. So based on those 2 projects and dozens of others that we've done over the years, we can start comparing the platform. That's why we're here today, comparing SilverStripe and Drupal over 8 different themes. So look at how clients position those frameworks and CMSs, the editor user experience, security patches, the framework, modules, themes, community, and then the innovation and futures we've heard this morning. Client positioning, first of all. So on the SilverStripe side, it's very good credential, obviously, in the public sector. It was an easy sell on the financial ombudsman projects that we did. Mostly helped with the Common Web platform and all the kind of government projects done in New Zealand at scale. So that has kind of quite well-defined case studies that was, easy to sell. And it's, feature-rich, can't complain, it's got all the features out of the box for most organization needs, and that work very well out of the box. Some of the more negatives, or necessarily not negative, but more challenges of how clients can perceive SilverStripe, potentially more like a niche solution, even though I'm not sure how we would define SilverStripe in the niche market. We've heard this morning about, it's a great developer experience, great platform, but I haven't found really a clear USP on how SilverStripe positions itself against the others on the client side. And then maybe more risk around being less known. So if clients are like, well, I've never heard about it, so is there any risk on that, or how can you mitigate those risks? But again, we can find some nice stories and case studies and talk about the size of the community in Europe and around the world to support their platform so they don't get stuck in a proprietary system. Again, the benefit of open source. And on the Drupal side, obviously, a much bigger kind of global reputation between WordPress and Drupal, probably powers half of the internet. And probably a positioning that they trust more as kind of enterprise ready, where there is, again, enough case studies of mega brands running thousands of Drupal websites, a few that we've heard about or talked about, not all clients, but I know Nestle are running thousands of websites all on Drupal. And we're just talking to Saint-Gobain now, one of the biggest French company that have also thousands of websites on Drupal and start aggregating that. So a bit higher rank on Drupal's positioning there. Obviously, some of the negative feedback on Drupal is that it's not easy to use for the editors. That was true a long time ago. Drupal 5.6 is very cumbersome. It's getting better now. Drupal latest version, there's a new admin theme that helps try to simplify that, and it's a bit better. Another negative was breaking changes as well between Drupal 7 and 9. I know Maxime talked about SilverStripe 3 to 4 as a challenge as well, but that's even worse on the Drupal side, trust me. Then the second point is the CMS editor for the user experience for the editors, because often ignored. We have the developer experience of the front end and public facing that needs to look right, but at the end of the day, the editors are the one using it every day, so they need to be happy as well. SilverStripe, again, a lot of benefits there. It's one of the easiest to use, if not the easiest to use, clean UI, very easy to understand. As I told you, when Financial Ombudsman, we just gave them the platform for a few weeks and they got SilverStripe straight away. They didn't need any training and they felt more comfortable with it. And then it's, logical UI, how you add kind of pages and sections and content blocks. The workflow system is quite intuitive. The live preview as you're editing, all of that works very well. Some of the more negative or maybe more challenges, not really negative, but more challenges is because it's so flexible, it's up to the developers to make it look good, because that's how you build the pages, how you organize the fields. You need to have a UX mindset as well, so it makes sense for the editors, because even though it's nice to use, you can make it very complicated for them if you don't structure your admin area very, very well. And then there's no true drag and drop editing experience. You can obviously reorder the blocks in admin UI, the grids, all of that is very helpful. But obviously Drupal and some others have a true drag and drop layout builder. My point of that is that I usually tell clients, be careful what you wish for, because we can do it for you, but if you give you too much freedom, then it's not necessarily easier to use. And it's, you don't want to have to drag different blocks in the grid, and then the front end, it just renders. It doesn't make sense for the end user. The rendering can be good and very fully responsive. The content probably doesn't flow very well, and it doesn't make sense for the end user. So yeah, that's kind of in between. And Drupal on its side, the latest version, big push on accessibility, which again, a lot of government clients appreciate and becoming a requirement more and more. So that's a good thing. SilverStripe has a good base as well. I was talking to some of our developers. It is accessible, but obviously there's more that can be done to really make it even more accessible. We talked about the layout builder. That, again, for client is seen as a positive, but we have to be careful how we configure it for them so it remains usable. Some of the drawbacks that, there's usually too many options. The admin kind of settings and the menus can be very confusing. We can manage that with permissions and roles and hide most of it for the editors that don't need super admin rights. But even then, there is more needs for training when they onboard new staff, and we have to write documents or take screenshot of how to tag things. When they publish content, there's like hidden menus on the right-hand side before they publish. Sometimes they get missed. So a bit more less intuitive, I would say, for the editors. Then when it comes on the security side, we've heard about the stability of the past releases, very secure system. There seem to be less frequent updates. Obviously, we've heard about nightmare stories from WordPress, where there's an update every other day. SilverStripe seems much less frequent, and we found it very stable, kind of backward compatible, and easier to apply to past releases. Something, I don't know if it's on your roadmap, Maxime, or some of the others, but auto update, something that Drupal 10 is working on, where it would be, it's very complicated things to implement, obviously, with the different modules and customization that we do, but that could be a nice to have in the future and a good selling point for clients. Drupal on its side, very structured release schedule, like weekly or bi-weekly, where we know that every Wednesday afternoon, kind of UK time, there's going to be an update. They post on Twitter, on newsletters, and kind of they update all the plugins, or list all the plugins, those vulnerabilities. So we've kind of almost blocked out our Wednesday afternoon, where we know we have to go through that list and see which websites are affected and if there is any priority security patch that we need to apply. So overall, kind of a good management of that. But more dependencies, that's what we found as well. It's a bit sometimes more difficult to apply, and a lot of confusing settings where there's going through this transition maybe between Drupal 9 and 10, where some settings are in the YAML file in the code or environment, some of the others are in the database that are editable via the admin UI. So sometimes if clients start changing some settings in the admin UI, it gets overwritten on the next deployment. So a bit more work for our development team to do to keep it stable. The framework side, SilverStripe, again, lots of positive. We've heard about the flexibility and kind of the very, very developer-friendly, kind of following standard patterns, very easy to learn and get efficient by the standard of the core and the modules, intuitive API, all the extensions that we can build. All of that has been very easy, the good ORMs. One of the things I noted about potential overhead performance, put a question mark, because we haven't really tested it at scale. Now we've heard about the case study from was it the New Zealand Tourism that seems to be handling a lot of requests, but probably a bit more configuration to be done. And Maxime talked about all the caching of that. We just haven't seen it, how it compares really to Drupal. So it's just a point to keep in mind. And then Drupal on its side, we feel like it's becoming more than just a content management system. It's kind of a content repository where it's not just about text and images and building web pages anymore, where you can start configuring a lot more, which I guess in SilverStripe you could as well, but it feels like Drupal is heading into that, more kind of data platform almost. On one hand, it's got rigid patterns, which helps with the consistency of how things are built, both for the backend developers and for the editors. But sometimes it's too rigid, where it's more complicated to customize things, and to make it easier for customer when they have specific requirements that they don't have to follow those patterns. And as we all know, I think I saw some comments on the forum before the conference that it's a steep learning curve. You might have tried Drupal 10 years ago and decided that no, it's not for me. And yeah, it is true. It is more complicated. There's a steep learning curve. There are custom hooks and all of that. But what our senior developers are saying is that the more you use it, the more kind of confident you become, and it gets easier as it gets more complicated, basically. And Drupal 10 even have one of the work streams they're working on is to make it easier to onboard new developers. So I think it's the definitive win for SilverStripe on that side. Then we talk about modules. We heard from Maxime this morning about some of the modules that are either part of the cores or some of the non-core modules that are officially supported. And similar to the previous slide, it's due to the simplicity of the patterns and the extensibility and the good documentation. It's easy to build modules. We've done it. We've open sourced some of them, most of them on our GitHub page. Obviously, they are more limited range, being kind of less popular than the likes of WordPress or Drupal. Less module. And again, we've heard Max talk about it earlier. There's no formal ways to apply for security reviews. Like, how does my module get part integrated of the core? And we spoke about it. We spoke at it over lunch. I know that's something they're going to be working on and trying to help developers put some structure around that. So that's going to be good. And then in Drupal, there's a famous saying that there's a module for everything. Yeah, if the client asks for something, our technical lead know where to look, and yeah, this module seems to be doing it, and then we can customize it maybe. And so it doesn't solve all the challenges, but there's obviously a bigger community and a bigger number of modules. And what we've seen is also some more support from vendors and third-party providers. So like some of them we've seen recently are a DAM provider, digital access management, that we might use for a client. They have their own official Drupal module that you can just install. It connects with their things. A lot of the translation providers we're working with as well for international clients, they have a Drupal module, and you just install it, and it connects to their back office workflows. So that helps a lot. And I haven't seen a lot on the SilverStripe side, so maybe something that we can, with the new partnership and your new role, we can try to see how we can approach vendors and get them to kind of build an official module that they can support, rather than being just on us in the community. Because like, I remember we had to do for one of our clients a SilverStripe module for Pardot, to have this kind of importing their web form from Pardot, and we had to build a new UI, which was fun and easy to do, but why like Pardot could have built it themselves and would have been better. So something to look at in the future. But obviously some of the negative Drupal, due to the vast amount of modules that everyone can publish their own module, it lowers the average quality, obviously, because it might just be done for a specific requirement. It's made open source, but then it's not maintained. The lack of support, we see a lot of the Drupal 7 module that are not been ported to Drupal 9. So that's, again, a challenge for, I guess, any open source community about the ongoing support. Let's look at the theming engine. SilverStripe, yeah, very, very simple, kind of good structure, kind of ensures the best practices, again, MVC, separating kind of the theme from the business logic. But because it's kind of almost its own language or own system, some potential limitation around growth, and some of our developers mention some of the kind of edge cases, again, trying to list 2 and 2 on each section. So edge case maybe, but sometime when they have to overwrite a module theme and there's nested views, they have to duplicate the whole folder rather than doing it. So again, not a big deal, but something that, again, we can look at on ongoing roadmap and provide more feedback to Maxime and his team. And Drupal on the other side, kind of full Twig support. So yeah, Twig probably being kind of the industry leading kind of theming framework now, used by many other frameworks. And yeah, much more powerful, a lot of features available. But again, sometimes too powerful, because then if developers are rushing things, they can start mixing some of the business logic in the theme. And we took over a site recently, and that's becoming a nightmare to debug and to understand what's going on, where some of the data is being manipulated in the back end, and then they start filtering it in the front end team, and it's just impossible to debug and test. So you have to again follow best practices, and obviously there is a steeper learning curve because it's not as simple structure as SilverStripe, similar to the back end we talked about earlier. And then on the open source side, so yeah, some good point for SilverStripe, the good documentation. It's easy to start. It's well explained, and due to the simplicity of the framework, pretty much anyone can start contributing. And I listed it as a negative in those using the standard GitHub process where you just kind of create your pull request and all of that works well. I list it as a negative compared to the Drupal way of doing it. And then the fewer contributions. Obviously, you have a small core team and great community here in Europe, but again, in fewer numbers compared to the Drupal teams on their side that obviously have a more global community. And when I talk about the standard GitHub, it's more the way Drupal are starting, again, a bigger system to encourage and recognize some of the community contribution where when you create your profile on Drupal.org and you link that to your every pull request or every comment or every question you answer on the forum, and you start earning credits, so you can build up that score as an individual, or and then aggregate all those scores from individual at the company level, and then you get different rankings and you earn kind of credits on their portal. So yeah, it's a more advanced system that probably not needed for SilverStripe today, but something maybe to aspire to in the future. But obviously, because of the size of the community, it's harder to stand out. You're not going to be as popular as some of the core contributors here that we have in the room or online today. And it's a more rigorous process where, yeah, it's very, very strict, and it's a bit harder to start, but there are some good benefits, and we can invest into it. And then looking a bit in the future, we talked about headless. We've heard from Jackson and Wayne this morning. SilverStripe, yeah, very good GraphQL support, especially on the latest version. Again, I rely on my team saying like there was a big improvement between SilverStripe 3 and 4. So good job on that. And then, yeah, well marketed online. There's a good marketing message of how you can use that and the different use cases. So it's a good starting point. I think one of the challenges I'd still be working on, or that we need the help of the community, is to start looking at the way you build and preview things as you start editing the content. Obviously, with the core CMS, you have the preview as you edit within the admin UI, but it's more difficult for headless, where there's kind of more configuration or custom development to be done. It's not just for SilverStripe. I think it applies to a lot of other frameworks, but it's something that needs to be worked on. Drupal, I feel like they've been marketing themselves as a headless first now, pretty much. As I said, they're becoming more than a content management system. It's more like a content repository or data platform. I think that's where they're moving into more and more, because they know that the future is more headless and the composable architecture and all of that. So they also have a comprehensive API. I think there's a GraphQL, but mostly REST API. So again, that opens a lot of opportunities to interconnect with other systems. But it's still early days. And I think that's on those kind of open source and PHP stack. That's something we need to think about hard, because if that's where the trends and the technology is moving, that where we might feel and find some challenges from those new headless SaaS platform like ready-made, like built for headless from day one. So something to explore in the next few years as a community. And finally, digital experience platform, yeah, the new buzzword. Even kind of Wayne talked about it this morning. We know that that's where a lot of the kind of marketers and the business they want to see where that's going. And I found some good blog posts actually from several years ago on SilverStripe talking about where that industry is moving and the benefits of it that it could bring for websites and content editors. But yeah, there's not a lot of, there hasn't been a lot of activity, seems like. Personalization module, that's haven't been updated in 7 years. And integration with dynamic CRM, I think, there's not a lot of core modules that are trusted and maintained that I know of today. Drupal has one module for basic personalization, when you can do very simple kind of segmentation and assign a content type or assign a block to a segment. But then they have obviously the commercial arm with kind of Acquia, which is kind of founded by Dries, who created Drupal, but then founded Acquia as a business and commercial business, selling additional products like Acquia personalization, and they have a DAM solution, which is still in the process of integrating. So some challenges there before they can reach a true DXP, because there's still a lot of manual integration. And it's still early days. And again, even some of the big boys, like we've seen on the Gartner, like the Sitecore and the Adobe Experience, sell themselves as DXP, but it's still very complicated and not intuitive. And I don't think there's it's still early days basically for DXP, and there's still a lot to be done. And as well, depending on each use case from the clients, because everyone, different size of company, sees DXP means something different for every client, pretty much. So that's it on the comparison. I hope I didn't offend anyone with my analysis. Might get some of the points wrong or incomplete, so feel free to update me afterward if you're working on some of those. But yeah, at the end of the day, what can we do? How can we select the best next CMS? I think we just have to keep doing our best. That's all we can do, really. Listen to our clients, build relationship with those clients, under promise, over deliver, kind of finish projects quicker, manage their expectation, and build true partnership with them, where everything I mentioned at the beginning, keep their best interest in mind, so you become a true extension of their team and they trust you. And then you can be proactive, educate them about some of those trends that we see in the industry, tell them about the new feature. If you see that they're struggling or wasting time doing things, find ways to automate things. And all of that obviously will make sure that you keep learning as well. You stay on top of your game. And the best way to do that really is to engage in the community, share what you're doing, share what you're working on, like we've seen today, learn from each other, fix bugs, deploy plugin, and yeah, that's the beauty of open source. So we'll need to continue with support Herbert, Andy, and the team with the S2 Hub to try and promote SilverStripe, and yeah, try to build on personalization or marketing automation module, because that will help us having happy clients, happy developer, and then having good projects. So everyone will be very happy. Thank you. A few words about CyberDuck, digital agency in London, focusing on kind of making the web inclusive and accessible. I'll spare all the spiel, we can speak about it later, but yeah. We're also hiring web dev, UX, products. Feel free to reach out if you're looking for a new challenge. And yeah, thanks for your time. You can connect online, Twitter, LinkedIn. Started a YouTube channel as well. I was tired of repeating every time the same thing to our clients. So I'm publishing videos now, so I can just send a link and saying, that's what I mean about DXP, or that's what you need to make a multilingual website. And yeah, feel free to reach out online. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvain. Very interesting. All right, panel time. Yeah, I have lots of questions myself, actually, but I'm curious to hear from the panel.
Well, I'm curious to hear from the panel, too. Do we have any thoughts on other CMSs and experience with them?
I need first to chime in. I love your job title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delivery, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Sylvain? And I will ask the audience the same thing later, but do we also have any thoughts on comparing CMSs and other experiences we've had?
I don't want to talk about other CMSs. I didn't have real good experiences.
Oh, all bad memories.
Yeah, no, nothing I want to talk in public.
Well, I do everything in SilverStripe.
Yeah.
I mean, I built Alexa skills in SilverStripe, so I'm the wrong person to ask. I really like the thing you said about Drupal with the content repo and data platform. I think that's something SilverStripe could hit a lot on, because we can basically do all that really good in SilverStripe. So maybe that's something we need to tell people more. it might be something that agencies don't see as a selling point, but like for customers, it might be a really interesting thing. And I do have one question I wrote down. What is a requirement that would make you choose Drupal over SilverStripe right away?
I think if they wanted to go with advanced personalization, like a big brand who is ready to engage in personalization, we know exactly what they want, with enough data, enough customers, enough traffic, start building those segments. And there are some with mostly the Acquia stack, they have some advanced modules. A lot of it is in the retail sector, even moving more into the CDP, the customer data platform, which kind of the layer between your website and your CRM that kind of aggregate customer data on multiple touch points. And then when you start doing personalization for e-commerce and use AI, and again, all those buzzwords that only works at scale. So that's why I put Drupal on the higher end of the scale for the complexity. So that would be the main one. We don't have a lot of clients at that scale yet. Even some of them we've heard, like New Zealand tourism, even we're talking about hundreds of thousands of visitors every day. That's not big enough almost to make a direct decision like that, because we know both platforms can handle it. So that would be really the higher end of the market probably.
And do you have a feature that would make you choose SilverStripe right away?
It's a good one. The ease of use of the CMS, I think, for the editors. If sometime, as I said, we do demo of clients. Say, look, that's how you do things in SilverStripe. That's how you do it in Drupal, and the client might decide, like, yeah, that seems much easier, and that's how they would choose.
Yeah, okay, cool.
That would be the main one.
Awesome. The audience, any questions for Sylvain? Any thoughts on experiences with other CMSs in the past?
Anything I got wrong? Come on, tell me.
Thomas.
Yeah, very, very little. We've tried one Silver Shop. That was a pleasurable experience. We really pushed it to the limit, and then actually we delivered. The client has a running website and it works, but didn't see like the opportunity to develop it further, take it to the next stage. It was quite a small businesses anyway, so it was just okay for them. We're only doing maintaining only 3 or 4 clients, I think, over the last few years on e-commerce. And because it's not our specialties, we've tried Magento 5 years ago and discarded that straight away. So we're moving now with BigCommerce. That's fully cloud-based platform that seems to suit very well the range of clients that we're working on, where it's easy to set up and a good API as well, to taking a headless approach. If we were having to mix content and commerce, I would use one of those CMSs and then plug in the BigCommerce headless API to take care of all the checkout and security and ordering workflows. That's my personal position on how to implement a mid-range e-commerce website today. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question in the chat from Herbert, actually. How do you see the trends developing when clients are requesting new CMS solutions when it comes to open source versus SaaS? What are they asking? What are they hoping for? What new trends do you see? What new questions do you see?
Yeah, it depends who's writing the brief. If it's more technical, IT or compliance people, as I said, they want the ownership of it. They want to control it. They want a self-hosted solution. So that excludes most of the SaaS platform. If it's more marketers and those SaaS platforms have very good messaging and have been influencing the market about how easy to use, likes of Contentful and some of the others. That some of the marketer that works well as well with the likes of HubSpot or personalization. That's why I start saying when vendors start officially supporting those platforms or recommending themselves, they're already using HubSpot and it works out of the box with Contentful, then some of the client might insist into a more SaaS-based solution if they're open to compliance. Sometimes it's usually that the marketings haven't considered compliance. They say, I want a SaaS, and then we worry about the data security later. So And that's when, again, I usually challenge the brief. I say, are you sure that's what you want? Is that going to comply with your InfoSec team? And then sometimes we can convince them to go with open source.
You got to keep both sides happy.
Yeah.
Then the vendor-supported modules, I think that's a really interesting idea, and maybe that's something that S2 Hub could also like be a bridge to contact vendors, at least in Europe, to get them like have them being part of S2 Hub to say, hey, we got this CMS, we got these agencies, and so on. Whereas the software vendors or platforms or services, do you want to supply a module? We will promote it on over S2.
Yeah. And even some of them could be, we've actually done a project where one of the vendor paid us to develop their Drupal module. We did it on the Drupal stack, one of the translation provider, because they saw their competitors had it, they didn't. And we had a common client that was, so they had the client doing the translation offline, and we had the client building their website. And yeah, they paid us to develop their module, and now it's open source and they're promoting it. So it could be, again, not just good for the community and the platform, but even revenue generating if we can convince those vendors to invest in it and trust the SilverStripe platform. Yeah.
I think we got a question back there.
Yeah. Aaron?
Yeah, hi. I noticed at the beginning you weren't very complimentary about Gartner and their Magic Quadrant, but do you find that most of your enterprise clients come with a preconceived idea as to what they want based on what is the Magic Quadrant in Gartner?
Yeah, that's with some of them, but they don't really understand at this stage. I don't know how Gartner managed to become the industry norm or the trusted platform about those rankings, because yeah, they are good platforms, but I know kind of behind the scene, you have to pay to be there, you have to promote things. I just don't trust it as a developer.
No, I mean, from my perspective, when you look at the Gartner report, you know, Adobe, Oracle, you've got to have £1 million budget just to get there.
Yeah.
But from a SilverStripe perspective, I've often questioned why SilverStripe doesn't even feature in many of the Gartner reports. And just getting it onto that quadrant would benefit everybody's uptake, because obviously everyone's then going, well, it competes there because it's there, because WordPress is there, Drupal, Joomla, they're all on that quadrant, aren't they?
Yeah,
so I'm just wondering how much pushback you get from enterprise because it's not on Gartner or Forrester and in those sections.
Yeah, no, I haven't had too much pushback. For you, like you said, that would be an easier sell. Like, even though I don't really trust it, it would sound good in a pitch, saying, "Hey, you can trust it. Look, it's there." For most marketers, I think that would help. Yeah, for sure. So I don't have experience or connection with those reports. One of our clients actually is on. They do data orchestration, so maybe we could reach out to see how we get on there, and they can share the process. Try exploring maybe. Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you how you get on it. It's just budget. Throw money at them, and it's simple.
Yeah. Can we do something and talk to Wayne? Cool.
Any more questions or thoughts? Were we missing anything in the comparison that Sylvain made?
Probably. All right, cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Everyone.